Hi, Gary Stearman. Time for another commentary on Bible prophecy. This one having to do with Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. Everybody knows this prophecy. It says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book, even at the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." And of course, everybody comments that this is a description of the latter days in which there is an exponential growth of knowledge and travel, and we're seeing that right now. But what is the time of the end? Well, Daniel himself, back in Daniel chapter 12, describes the end. He describes in Daniel 9:24, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. So right there in Daniel 9:24, Daniel describes the time of the end as being the culmination of events concerning Israel and Bible prophecy. That would be Israel's return to the land, Israel's wars leading up to the building of a temple, in which the Antichrist could set up his false rule. And students of Bible prophecy are following that chain of developments, have been ever since I've been around. And we see a number of very interesting things happening, including Daniel 12:4, where Daniel is told to shut up the words, seal the book, to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, knowledge shall be increased. And I saw an article in the Computer World that describes knowledge being increased. And it's all about the Turing test. That is, the Turing test, a postulate that was set up way back in the 50s, in which computer analysts and computer developers said if a computer can ever be built that is so intelligent that you can talk to it through a wall. It's in the next room, you're in this room. You converse with it without seeing it. And if you can't tell whether you're talking to a computer or a human being, the Turing test has been passed. Well, recently I read that the Turing test now has been passed. That is, computers are smart enough that you can talk to them and through a wall where you can't see who you're talking with. And you really can't tell whether you're talking with a computer or another person. And of course, computers are becoming exponentially smarter every day. Leading me to an article here in Computer World, dated December 28th of 2015, "The Dark Side of the Coming Chatbot Revolution." Google has been working on a message-based chatbot for a year. That would be all during the year 2015. They're still working on it. According to the Wall Street Journal, they described this service by Google as a virtual assistant online. In other words, you'll be able to talk to a chatbot online, and you won't be able to tell whether you're talking to a computer or a real human being. Now that's what I call knowledge being increased, as Daniel puts it. And you say, well, that's just wonderful that computers are now getting so smart that you can't tell whether it's a computer or a real human being. Oh, is it? Here's an article that was run from Davos, Switzerland, Agence France Presse. It was run by a number of different news services. And it talks about the dangers of killer robots. Did you know that killer robots are being developed? Do you know that these killer robots, maybe you've even seen them on the web, you can pull up movies of robotic animals that can carry packs into battle, that can fire weapons, et cetera, et cetera. But did you know that artificial intelligence is being groomed and preened to make military decisions in the field of battle? And they are being called killer robots. The world must act quickly to avert a future in which autonomous robots with artificial intelligence roam the battlefield, killing humans. Scientists and arms experts warned at an elite gathering in the Swiss Alps. This is Davos, Switzerland. They had a convocation to decide whether or not to put on limitations concerning the artificial intelligence in weaponry. Have we come this far? Remember the sci-fi picture, the Terminator, in which there was something called Skynet that got so smart that it began to suspect that human beings were trying to shut it down, and it thought to itself, you know, I'm not going to let anybody shut me down. I'll destroy them before they destroy me. And it made a marvelous sci-fi thriller, but now people are meeting and discussing putting limitations on artificial intelligence. They say rules must be agreed to prevent the development of such weapons. At a January 19th through 23rd meeting concerning, and by the way, this happens to be the 22nd, so the meeting is still going on as I make this. This is a meeting of billionaires, scientists, and political leaders in the snow-covered ski resort at Davos, Switzerland. Angela Kahne, the German UN High Representative for Disarmament Affairs from 2012 to 2015, says the world has been slow to take preemptive measures to protect humanity from lethal technology. She said it may be too late. And a discussion coming out of this ongoing meeting has to do with limiting robots. And here's a quote: "We are not talking about drones where a human pilot is controlling the drone," said Stuart Russell, professor of computer science at University of California, Berkeley. "We are talking about autonomous weapons, which means that there is no one behind it. It is set out to search and destroy based upon certain parameters, but the weapon is capable of making its own decisions. Let it go. It's autonomous." Isn't that a wonderful thing? Not really. We're talking about autonomous weapons, which means there's no one behind it. AI, artificial intelligence, he told the forum in Davos, very precisely weapons that can locate and attack targets without human intervention. And the talks then went on beyond autonomous weapons. What's the next step beyond an autonomous weapon? And it is a weapon that can build copies of itself, capable of self-replication, expansion, capable of building support, lines of support to keep it and its other robots well supplied so that they can then take over and hold command over a region for themselves. And that's what this article is all about. It's about the threat of artificial intelligence. Skynet, anyone? You know, it was a sci-fi story, and now it's not a sci-fi story. It's a real-fi story. And the Bible, in the days of Daniel, I think, talked about this very thing. "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words, seal the book. Even to the time of the end, penny shall run to and fro, knowledge shall be increased." My personal opinion, I consider myself to be pretty well read in the subject of AI, artificial intelligence, and the history of AI. I've been following it for years with a lot of trepidation, I might add, and a lot of biblical insight. And I think that many of the prophets speak of latter-day wars in which there are demonic developments on the field of battle. Things that we hardly dare talk about, think about, things that we hardly dare even imagine. "Many shall run to and fro," that's happening. "Knowledge shall be increased exponentially." Yes, I think that's happening too. What to do in the light of this? Well, I think the one thing that we as Christians can do is keep ourselves apprised of developments in this field so we'll know what to pray about. You know, we are still here. Christians comprise a fairly large percentage of the population, at least in the United States. And a well-informed Christian on his knees in the field of battle is more powerful than any machine, regardless of the level of its artificial intelligence. We have not come to the place where it's time to give up. We have come to the place where it's time to understand the situation and to commit it to prayer, because there are still men who control these machines for a while. I don't know how long. But isn't it amazing that so many years ago, so many centuries ago, Daniel talked about this very thing. And after he was told to shut up the words and to seal the book, he adds this note in Daniel 12:5. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, there stood another two, one on this side of the bank of the river, the other on that side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? We're all asking that question. You know, how long? In fact, we often, in our prayers, I think, say, how long, O Lord, before you return? And verse 7 says, and I heard a man clothed with linen, which was upon the waters of the river, and when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times and a half, and we shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. In other words, look to Israel. God's plan, very, very quickly now, I believe, is shifting toward Israel. Israel is going to be the chief element in deciding the affairs of this world. Israel is going to be at the center of all the world's battlefields. All the prophets of the Old Testament agree on that fact. Jesus talked about it in the Olivet Discourse, and we watch it day after day after day. And just thought I'd share with you a note about artificial intelligence on the battlefield, because that tells us what time it is. So you keep watching. Things are happening. We are. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.